radio station in Ottawa was looking for a news person, and they called and asked. I kept pestering the people back in Halifax. You know, I'm out here in the boonies practicing my stuff. The big aim in life was to get to be good enough out there after having, you know, sort of used all of my bad pronunciation and everything on the local listeners in poor old Amherst. God, when I must have inflicted on their ears. The idea then was to go back to Halifax, and I kept pestering Halifax and calling in all kinds of stories to them. The train's going to be late, there's been a big crash on the highway, all kinds of trivial stuff, just to keep my name in front of them and say, hey guys, don't forget me, I'm out here practicing, and someday I'm coming back to the big city of Halifax. And I was really bugging them literally every day. And so they got a call in Halifax from Ottawa saying, do you know anybody down there in the Maritimes that's any good? We're looking for somebody to do news at night. And somebody recommended me. I got hired over the telephone for the munificent sum of $100 a week. I packed up all my belongings, put them in my trusty Volkswagen Carmen Ghia, which was a very sporty little car at the time, sort of like yours, and off to Ottawa. This is after about a year in Amherst. And I lasted 2 weeks, and the news director fired me and said, listen kid, you'll never make it in this business. Go sell ties at Eaton's. The guy's name was Hal Anthony, who's still working in Ottawa, and we're good friends. But
2 strikes now.
Pardon?
This is your second strike, at least. You've been fired.
Oh, second time I've been fired, but a zillion strikes against me because all kinds of places where I hadn't been hired. You know, but here's 2 occasions when I'd been fired. Once at CJCH in Halifax, and here I am at CKOY in Ottawa, and I'm out of it. Fortunately, they had great pity on me, and they had called my boss back in Amherst and said, look, he's here 2 weeks, but he's too green. Have you replaced him? No. And so they said, look, call back to Amherst. You can have your old job back. And so they were very nice about that. So I left Ottawa with my head hanging pretty low and went back to Amherst and stayed another 6 months, and then got offered a job in Halifax, and went to Halifax and then got involved in politics, covered Bob Stanfield at the legislature, and then covered him in 1967 when he ran for and won the Conservative leadership in Toronto.
Not a very charismatic politician, was he?
Oh, he was the man with the winning way. That was the slogan in 1967.
Who coined that?
Dalton Camp, who was running Stanfield's campaign. But I got the bug then. 1, news was great, but 2, political news could be exciting, because the Tory Leadership Convention in 1967 in Toronto was a massive affair with no spending limits, no regulations. Now everything's so controlled, but in those days there were no spending limits, so you'd walk into a hospitality suite and they'd have cases of booze stacked to the ceiling. There were bands in the halls, people on horseback in the lobby of the Royal York Hotel. I mean, it was just bizarre. And of course, the big drama was, what would Diefenbaker do? Would Diefenbaker run for the leadership again, or would he step aside? And of course, he allowed his name to stand, and I think came 5th in that contest. But all the bloodletting leading up to that, dump Diefenbaker movement and the leadership review question, all of that. And then when I finally saw the spectacle in Maple Leaf Gardens, I just was dazzled. And I said, hey baby, this is for me. If I can go anywhere in this business, I want to do it covering politics.